important. We need to continue to plant more trees. We need to ensure that we degrade less our land, but also because we know that this will bring additional co-benefits. And it is important for us to look at the nature-based solutions as opportunities that can provide alternative livelihoods for Ugandans as well. As our population continues to grow, the need in terms of timber, in terms of fuel, will also rise. If I ask the Ugandans that are here in this room, which one of you are not using charcoal, I don't think that anyone will raise their hand. Huh? So even those of us that are not cooking with charcoal, when we go to those pork joints, they're using charcoal. So we're all contributing. And so I think as we think of ways to address the challenge in terms of balancing the energy need, but also meeting the target, the complexities requires that we plan differently and bring all solutions on the table to ensure that we meet those ambitious targets.
Thank you. Incremental transition. Lastly to you, Mr. David Otieno, any comments, any additions?
Yeah, thanks so much, moderator. Maybe just to add on what the panelists have mentioned, and it's good you mentioned about the NDC 3, which Uganda has submitted. GIZ was actually part of working closely with the Ministry of Environment as well as other agencies to get this done, and it was quite a milestone. But in addition to that, you know that as well as SDG is very important for the country, and as exactly the Energy Policy 2023, and then we're talking about the Vision 2030, so quite a number of targets that need to be met. But if you zero down into the NDC 3, energy still remains very strong. Of course, agriculture as well, I mean, because we talk about mitigation and adaptation, and if you zero down into mitigation, energy plays a central role. And this is where I think we need to look into. At the moment, and my fellow panelists have just mentioned, energy poverty is still one of the major problems we're facing. At the moment, those connected to the grid, we're talking about 19%. I think now it has increased by additional 1%, so it's 20%. Those with off-grid applications, we're talking about roughly 38%, so barely, slightly more than 50%, so 57% are having electricity in one way or the other, but a big percentage still do not have. So energy poverty is very strong. If you go back to the cooking, and you've just mentioned about cooking energy, I mean, this is also another aspect that needs to be looked into, and that's why the targets that are set into the NDC, and which was submitted from Uganda, zeroed down into what do we do in the cooking energy sector. How do we transform the use of biomass to be sustainable use of biomass, and how do we even come up with more innovative cooking technologies? You heard about the British High Commissioner mentioning about the e-cooking. The Minister this morning also hinted into it. We are working closely with various partners, MEX and other partners to have the project on pressurized cooking or e-cooking, for instance. And this would be kind of a turnaround into the usage or overusage or over-reliance on biomass. If you come back into electricity, and again, this has been mentioned a lot, moderator, it's about the energy mix, because here we are talking about energy security in times of crisis, and how do you answer that? It's all about not relying only on one source. Those of you who've been in Uganda for a number of years, there's a time we had load shedding. Of course, hydro is renewable, but if you over-rely on it, you could have also consequences with all these climate change issues that we talked about. So having an energy mix that will allow you to shift easily into another source becomes very important. We're talking about electricity, but also cooking energy. I will still emphasize, because I think it's important, and I think panelists have also mentioned, this diversification of supply routes. As we know, Uganda is landlocked. and therefore you cannot, again, not rely on single routes, whether you're talking about power or even gas and many others. You need to diversify that, because you need to ensure that energy products are getting into the country. And finally, which I think still is, let's say, the core work that we as GIZ does, and working very closely with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, but also Ministry of Water and Environment and other ministries that we are collaborating with, in particular Ministry of ICT, because of our work on artificial intelligence and information technology. Capacity building is important, and that's why I think I'm so happy that we're also joined by researchers here, academicians, people from universities, because we need research. We need to ensure that technology is constantly being updated. We're getting our universities get into research. We're working with various universities, including Makerere, Creek, and many others. It is important to make sure that when we have the academics, the research, also accompanying all these measures that we're putting in place. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have had such a good panel, and I have one more question, and this is your moment to proudly talk about what your organizations are doing. Here I want to know your initiatives of your organizations to support energy security, climate change mitigation, adaptation in Uganda, and maybe in the developing world. I come from a rural community. I represent in Parliament. We're keen to participate in the clean energy transition. So I also welcome you to Mawogola North, Zimbabwe district. I can't forget to put that in. But talk about your experience in Uganda, what you're proud of, what you've contributed so far, and where you see us going. So maybe I'll start with you again, David, and just bring it this way. Thank you.
I thought, moderator, you'd allow me to have some some time to think, but I mean,
sure, that's fine.
But no, I could just go for it.
Because you've already spoken a lot about GIZ.
But maybe I could just mention a few parts, and that brings in the bit of collaboration with others.
Yes.
So within GIZ, we also work within the Team Europe initiative, so working with other member states, countries, to be able to contribute into the energy sector here. An example is the work that we're doing under Energizing Development, which is a multi-donor funded program, working very closely with SNV. I'm sure SNV colleagues are in the room here. We're working on electrification, and my colleagues will be sitting in other panels to also elaborate this more. We are working on cooking energy, and not only in the area of improved cookstoves or e-cooking or the like, but also looking into biogas. What can biogas contribute into that? So that's one element that I would say collaboration with other partners plays a central role. Maybe one that I could mention, which is a collaboration between Germany and the EU, which I'm sure my colleague also from KfW will hint into it, is contributing into this equation of electricity access. As I mentioned, the percentage of electricity access is very limited. I mean, 57% is very small. So what are we doing? We are now bringing in mini grids, because we know that most of the villages that are located outside the cities cannot be reached easily, because utilities will look into how can they make their monies back. I mean, you need to pay the bills and all this. But we can be able to have mini grids. These are standalone systems that are able to generate enough electricity, not only for consumptive purposes, but also for productive use. So we've supported mini grids. Actually, it was the first of its own also in the continent, by the way, where we have now 25 mini grids that are now operational in the northern part of Uganda. We're going to install additional 14 mini grids in the southern part of Uganda. I'm sure KfW will also mention their work on this. This is, I would say, a great milestone into contributing into the energy or electricity poverty here. I will stop there because I think I talked about policy already, but that is in a nutshell the work that we do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And I have visited your offices and I know what you're doing, so thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Antonio Cutero from FAO.
Thank you, moderator. And FAO, we are also walking the talk. In our building here in Kampala, 30% of our energy comes from solar. The rest, I expect, are renewable from your hydro. So, and we have done our level best to ensure that we bring efficiency in our building as well. But in terms of our intervention as FAO, as you know, I mentioned in the beginning this nexus between agriculture, energy, and water. We see agriculture as an important role, have an important role for sustainable development of Uganda. And therefore, we must address the challenge that we have within the agriculture when it comes to energy, both in terms of its viability, affordability, and to ensure that every district in Uganda have access to cheap and affordable energy. The challenge that we see in terms of agriculture transformation in Uganda stems from the fact that the energy is still expensive. The challenge that we have in terms of value additions, you need energy. For post-harvest management, you need energy. The challenge that we've been seeing in terms of aflatoxin contamination left and right is because for you to manage aflatoxin appropriately, you need to control two things, temperature and humidity. And you cannot do that if you don't have energy. So the nexus between agriculture, energy is important, and I'm also adding the water. Yes, this country is blessed when it comes to rainfall. You have a lot of lakes, 20% of your land is covered by water. But for us to transform agri-food system in Uganda, we must invest more in irrigation. For irrigation, you need to pump water, and those require also energy. If the sources are renewable, good, and because that also lowers the cost of agriculture productivity here in Uganda. So the work of FAO has been to install and promote the installation of micro irrigation systems. And throughout the cattle corridor, we have installed hundreds of these systems that showing ways to manage water efficiently, but to ensure that water is available for production. So this is one dimension that I would like to stress. With the support of European Union, we've been also implementing a project on sustainable charcoal production. The word may be confusing, but you may say that how can you produce charcoal sustainably? But we believe that we can improve on practices of producing charcoal. But also what we're doing is to promote the plantation of bio-energy woodlots. So if we do have this need when it comes to charcoal, we must have woodlots that are based on plants that grow fast, that can be transformed into charcoal, and ensure that we are not depleting our natural forests. So this will definitely release the pressure on your forest. At the same time, it provides an alternative for cooking. You heard this morning someone saying that based on your cultural beliefs and tradition, it may be hard for you to let go of charcoal. So we have to come up with sustainable ways of continue to produce charcoal that we ensure that we are not depleting our natural resources. Working also together with UNHCR, with OPM, under the leadership of Ministry of Water and Environment, we've been working to greening the humanitarian response. You know that your country has shown tremendous solidarity when it comes to welcoming the refugees. 1.5 million refugees are now here in Uganda. If you look where they're placed, in some cases they are just in front of natural forests. So if we don't provide solutions for the refugee response, of course they will cut whatever resource they find in the nature. So the work that we've been doing with these partners is to ensure that we provide the alternatives. And in terms of improved cook stove, in terms of more efficient ways of using biomass, is part of our intervention as well. At the same time that we've been working with the 3 districts up north to ensure that then how we come back and work with nature, for nature to restore itself, if it's, natural restoration, or if we have to do something to assist nature to come back. So the restoration of the degraded land is part of also an important intervention of FAO, and we welcome all partners in this aspect. I think one last thing that I would like to stress again, when it comes to our work, is to see then how we build coalitions and partnership of the willing to ensure that we don't disperse our energy, to ensure that we avoid duplication, but important in this process is national ownership and creating sustainability in terms of intervention for Uganda in the next decade or by 2030. All the sustainable development goals are achieved, particularly when it comes to those that are dear to us. We believe that agriculture is a key important sector, not only for food security and nutrition security, but also to alleviate the poverty. And I strongly believe that food security and nutrition security comes with income security. I joke with my colleagues that if you have money in your pocket, even if you live in Karamoja, you can order pizza from Kampala. So income security is important for your food security. And how we achieve income security is by creating conditions for us to eradicate poverty in a country like yours that is so blessed by nature. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So one or 2 minutes from Mr. Tumhimbise and Jan. What you're doing in Uganda.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Moderator, Honorable. I want to just build on from what David mentioned about collaboration, and we take collaboration seriously at WWF. And there are some of the things that you cannot work and resolve alone. For instance, earlier we were talking about alternative sources of clean energy. We talked about using gas, talk about solar. But why is it that there is low adoption? Some of the things we understood was basically to look at the pricing and taxation. And we have worked together with colleagues, together with the ministry, to be able to address some of those. Taxation for gas, but also solar panels. It's true that some other areas which have emerged are not being addressed in terms of taxation, but at least there's been an attempt, and some taxes have been reduced on solar panels. Secondly, among other things, what we do, we have worked together with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development to be able to set up mini-grids, especially in the Albertine region where we have a strong presence. And with that, we have seen how mini-grids in the off-grid areas, how spurs job creation, how spurs productivity, and improve livelihoods. For instance, if you talk about institutionalizing in renewable energy in schools and the health facilities, certainly it directly translates into educational achievements in those geographies. The other area we have been working on, again, about restoration. Over the last 15 years, WWF, together with others, with the Ministry of Water and Environment, of course, NFA and communities, have been able to restore close to 500,000 hectares of degraded land and forests. And we've taken that seriously. The other area we have been working on, again, is trying to look at how can we be able to turn around efficiency of timber. When you harvest timber and use the traditional way of harvesting it, you are able to have productivity of only 25%. We have promoted some technologies, of course, using sawmills in some of the areas where we have established that actually with using sawmills, you'll be able to improve productivity from 25% to 45%. It means subsequently you save on trees being cut for timber, and certainly as the economy is growing, you need to utilize those resources. The other area we have been working on again is about policy, working together with the ministry and of course with my colleagues from GIZ to see how can we be able to bring the voices of civil society on the table. In the energy policies, we have been working in the past. We have worked with other civil society actors to bring the issues of the communities on the exploration of oil and gas. And we feel like, yes, we are going to continue to do that, but the voice of the community have been evident in those discussions. And we changed that, and we want to continue to be a partner with everybody, with the ministry, and all other actors in this space. Thank you.
So, moderator, I've heard you gave me 2 minutes, so that's the reason why I won't present a whole bunch of projects we're doing. But let me focus on 2, and maybe also close the circle when we started the discussion. The discussion which we started today was about how do we try to mobilize private sector, and there are 2 programs that I'm proud of. We can talk of from KfW side. One is, you've heard today from the High Commissioner from Britain, there's a program called Get Fit. And the Get Fit program actually pooled resources from Norway, from UK, from the European Union, and from Germany. And KfW was charged to implement this program together with ERA, so with the regulator here in Uganda. And we have to go a bit back in the times, because now we have a demand and we have a generation surplus. By the time when the Get Fit program started, we had power and load shedding. David was speaking about it. It was not always like it is today. And at this time, this question was still there. How can we attract the private sector to invest in the energy generation, especially in renewables? And Uganda was really showcasing, really on the forefront. And what happened, there were like clear licenses, there were power purchase agreements, there were a premium paid with these resources from the different partners, development partners. It's a premium on the feed-in tariff. And in the end, this project was able to attract 17 independent power producers, installing more than 150 megawatt generation capacity, and really right now contributing more than 10% of the total installed capacity here in Uganda. So this was achieved ways back, years back. So right now it's happy to sit here and to have talk about generation surplus, but it was not at the time. And yes, we had some problems with the program, and David touched upon some of them, like we have deemed energy payments, we have a problem sometimes with affordability, but nevertheless, Uganda did well here. So I think really Uganda achieved something, mission accomplished. The second program, and that's also something I can refer to, David spoke about it, it's about mini-grid. And I couldn't be more happy that GIZ and MEMD really proved it, that mini-grid is a bankable, it's a viable, it's a technical and economical situation and solution that makes sense in off-grid situations. So the private sector is even interested to invest in that. So KfW is happy, and on Saturday we're going to have a separate event about that now with European Union financing and German financing, we can scale up the tested approach, and we will, up to 150 mini-grids will be installed in the next program phase. So here, really, once again, thank you to MEMD and GIZ for proving that this is happening, and I think this really closes the circle what we talked about before. So it's really about put the right policy in place, put the right legal framework in place, have high ambitious targets, have capable institutions, and you need partners for that. And once you've proven that projects work, bring it out to the sector, bring it out to the market, let the private sector kick in and de-risk the program to the extent possible, but maybe concessional financing. So thank you for that, and hope this answers your questions.
Yes, it does. Please, a round of applause to our panelists, Mr. Jan Alba, Country Director, KfW, German Development Bank, Mr. Ivan Tumhimbise, Country Representative, WWF, Mr. Antonio Quirido, Country Representative FAO, I'm sorry, I've botched your name, and lastly, Mr. David Otieno, Cluster Coordinator and Head of Program, GIZ Uganda. Thank you so much for your time and your valuable insights into this expo and meeting. Our partner is Total Energy, and I'm so blessed to have joined you this afternoon. Thank you so much for coming, and that ends our discussion.
Honorable Shatsi, there's a media team that wants to take a good, proper picture with you and your team. Gentlemen, can we have a group photo? Thank you very much. Well, thank you so much, Honorable Shatsi, for moderating that particular breakout session. Now, the next session that we're having in Speak Ballroom is Grid Efficiency and Resilience. We're going to be focusing on electricity, theft, and infrastructure vandalism. And that is going to be moderated by Dr. Mukisa Nicholas from NREP. Dr. Mukisa, shall we?
Give this. Good afternoon. We are going to have quite a short session of about 30 minutes discussing electricity, theft, and vandalism. And I'm honored to be sitting in for my colleague Solomon Serwanja, and our panel constitutes a range of experts in this space. We'll have Engineer Michael Shibuta from UEDCL, Engineer Sunday Emmanuel Sisubuga from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. We'll have Engineer Arinda Rachel from UEDCL, and our colleague Ronald Mitty from American Tower. I'm hopeful that all my panelists are available and they are taking their seats. Thank you. Feel comfortable to sit wherever you are. Maybe you could balance a bit the seats. How do you prefer? Do you mind to sit like this, or you balance the seats? Just as you feel like. How many are they? Yeah, could move the other one as well. I want to stay here. Thank you very much, dear colleagues, for having accepted our invitation to be part of this discussion. We are aware of the challenge of grid efficiency and resilience given the nature of our current state of the grid, but also the technical and non-technical losses we are continuously facing with our grid. And to add to that, we are suffering with vandalism. So I'm glad to have you gentlemen discussing this subject, and I'd like to lend you 1 minute to introduce yourself so that our audience can get to know you before we delve into the discussion. I'll start with you.
Thank you very much, moderator. My name is Engineer Emmanuel Nsuka. I work with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development in many different capacities, first as a Principal Energy Officer, but I'm also the project coordinator for the 600 megawatt Karuma hydropower project and the Karuma interconnection project, so I'm very familiar with matters of vandalism. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. I'm Engineer Emmanuel Okello. I work with Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited as a senior planning engineer in the Grid Development and Planning Department. I'm well conversant with the topic at hand. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Shibuta Mark. I am the Senior GIS Officer, UEDCL, and I'm the one who literally has all the information on the network and the distribution asset. So I am well conversant on the different incidents of vandalism on the network. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Ronald Mitty. I'm also an engineer by profession and practice. I'm the Chief Technical Officer of American Tower, ATC. ATC practically runs over 85% of the towers in Uganda for all the telecoms. So wherever we see MTN, Airtel, those towers are owned by us. I'm here as a person who is impacted by those thefts from a customer perspective across the 4,000 towers that we have across the country. So I'm a bit conversant with the subject as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ronald. And I would like to start my question with UET Cell, because I believe you've been the most affected in the value chain of the electricity supply. And could you, from your experience, what do you perceive as a company that could be the backbone for this device of vandalism?
Yeah, thank you, moderator. I think vandalism in Uganda starts with the usage of scrap by these industries, steel and iron ore industries. As long as there is market for this, and of course the need to enhance income, we will continuously have this vandalism problem with us. The other issue is the stakeholder engagement. If you're not, we involve the projects traversing through various community areas, and some of, it's not yet proven, but some of the PAPs may not be satisfied with the compensation where government projects are passing, and so they may get into this act and want to derail the project. The other is on economic sabotage. You know, this being mostly government projects, they may want to sabotage government's plans and to show that government is not making any progress in terms of development of the power industries. Chair, in addition to economic sabotage, I think generally, if you look at the need by the needs of the people within the various communities that this line passes, and also the substation equipment where we have different power infrastructure, not only transmission as well, also the generation and distribution, the theft there. For example, this equipment comes from, they're actually costly, and they come from very, I can say, manufacturers that are not present within the region. So if you have a project that is, for example, in a neighboring country, and you want to do some sort of theft of this equipment so that you can transfer it to the project in the neighboring country, this could also be another factor that stimulates the need on this vandalism and theft of power infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Emmanuel. And this brings me actually to Mark, Engineer Mark. And I have a range of engineers here. So you have to, either everyone is an engineer or I use Mr. But I come to you, Mark. And could your submission differ from what Emmanuel mentioned in regard to, with regards to vandalism particularly?
Interestingly, I think I relate much with what my colleague from transmission has just delivered, because you'd find that vandalism is an issue that can also be seen as a symptom of a lot of things happening. And Uganda being a country that is in the phase of rapid expansion of the grid, you would find that there is a lot of, there are so many projects that are running right now, and it's happening so fast. And you'd find that some of them, some of these contractors, I would say, I'm not pointing a finger, but I would say one of the causes could be the sheer demand for material. Yeah, it's the material, the demand for these materials are quite high.
Yeah.
And maybe some contractors could be stretched, and they could be looking at a quick way out of their their positions to deliver on some projects, and they would end up going to pick on some of these materials. And interestingly, according to us in UEDCL, our analysis shows that most of the vandalism occurrences are happening on newly constructed lines. Yeah? So that signals to something. Yeah. You actually see that there is a desire or there is a demand. There is demand for some of these materials that someone could need to deploy on or to deliver on a project that is needed. I also want to come to the point of the need for scrap. My colleague from transmission also talked about that. Scrap is, or metal, is one of those industries that is also, you know, there is demand for aluminium, to make, I've seen saucepans downtown. I'm not saying that they are our biggest culprits, but if you looked at a lot of these cases, you would easily drill down to some of these people in the metal industry who are looking for quick source of raw materials for their produce. Thank you.
This brings me now to the ministry, because I understand these are all your correspondents on this matter, and you have the mandate to electrify and ensure that we have sustainable supply of electricity. So this, brings a bit of challenge to you in meeting your mandate. What do you have to say on this matter, and what are some of those planned or envisaged approaches that you look at to be a solution to this challenge?
Thank you, moderator. Now, you see, vandalism does not necessarily come with theft. There's some vandalism that goes without theft. But we are discussing both vandalism and theft. And the existence of this threatens the existence of the state itself. So vandalism and theft risks the existence of the state. If, for some reason, the electricity system collapses, it can go with a lot of things, because our entire service system today is running around electricity, and therefore we need this. But I want to paint a picture for you. Vandalism is about hunger, anger, and greed. Okay? Hunger is those who want to sell a small piece, the wire, for its value in the market to get something to eat. Okay? And those ones, I'm going to propose for you a socio-economic solution for that, and the practice that we're having now. Then anger are those who are disgruntled for some reason. It could be political. It could be that you have put up the tower without compensating for their crops. Is that probably what you compensated, they feel you undercompensated them? Or is that a disgruntled worker who was working with a subcontractor or contractor who has finally been fired, said, no, I'm not going to accept, I'll go back and revenge. There's that group. Then there is the greedy group. And this greedy group sometimes even are armed. They're organized crime guys, they are armed, they'll come to a site and roll kilometers of line. They have the equipment, they have the vehicles, they can carry transformers, they can forklift them. They are organized, and they're even armed. Now, the solution for each of those categories is different. Solution number one, for the guy who is thinking about food, is to empower them. How do you empower them? You must use what I've come to term as the substation model. And the UTCL and UEDCL will tell you today that all their substations are manned with security, private or public, all of them. But they don't do the same for their lines. That is a very big challenge. To take away this small guy, you need to give him something out of the whole process. So what do we propose? The proposal is organize them into communities, first of all. They can support in community policing. But most importantly, within each footprint of the power line, there is a security group private that is already having a footprint within that area. Why don't we give them jobs the way we are giving them at the substations? Okay? Such that those very security companies, when we're giving them jobs because they're already settled in that footprint, we encourage them to employ who? The locals. And therefore, the local man who would have cut a piece of a tower because he wants something to eat now has a job from a security company that works for that is manning the area for government. It's a good solution. It's a social solution, and you need it. The other angry guys is that we must compensate our people duly for the for the property. And just manage our projects in such a way that they have corporate social responsibility. When people benefit from a project existing, then sometimes they are more keen to protect the project. So corporate social responsibility, we need to be able to be involved in our contractors' management of their work. Because if we just sit back and say we are managing the contractor, but we don't get down to see how is the contractor managing his workers, we lose it. So the workers who is disgruntled will cut off. So compensation should be proper, corporate social responsibility, community development action plan, and to put our noses in there. And then there's the greedy group. The greedy group, it's a war. Punitive measures in the law. We must raise the cost of being an organized criminal. And then we must also get our guns, and then we must go to war with them because they are difficult. They are not there for kitu kidogo. I will submit more later.
Thank you very much, Engineer. And I think we need now to go to war. But before we go to war, I want to borrow experience from the towers, because telecommunications have not suffered this challenge. And in nature, the towers that the transmission uses don't really much differ from what telecoms are using. How have you been able, because I've not heard literature, probably maybe you have some, where it's mentioned that an teleco tower has been vandalized or somehow, and I think the materials too. Everyone has alluded to the fact that there is a demand for scrap, you know. How have you been able to safeguard your towers that no story comes out in the news or anywhere about vandalism in your space?
Okay, that's very interesting perspective, but maybe let me correct this. Historically, true. They have not come for our towers, and we are still praying they don't come for our towers. Not like they should stay on the transmission side, but they haven't come for the metal pieces of our towers. But also, what we've seen in the recent, about a year and a half, I don't know that it's again related to the economic situation around the country, they're not coming for the towers, but they are coming for the same cables. So when we talk of vandalism and theft, like he tried to explain, there are people who do vandalism, meaning he just wants to vandalize, to cause damage and yet spoil. But now we have people coming for our cables because we have DC cables on our sites connecting the powered equipment. So they come to the site, they don't come for the tower, but they pull out, they cut all the cables wherever they can and pull out the cable. So it means the real issue is copper or aluminium. That's what they are searching out for. So we have picked that up as well. It's not an easy thing. Like my colleague has mentioned, it's a real war. We, from a solution perspective, we are trying out a few things. Of course, the battle on the battle-hardened approach, we are trying that as well, working with security system and everything. But what we found very, very useful is the community policing. Very, very, very successful. We have statistics around that. If you can actually find means of engaging landlords around the place and the like, and a little bit, people don't need too much, a little bit of what would have been a CSR. Exercise books, if they are farmers, gumboots and hose and shoes and pangas and the like, they actually work for them and they feel like that asset means a lot. So there is a bit of that sensitization around that, and it has yielded quite some great results. But we also have an advantage slightly different from the grid side, because for us, we have a lot of active equipment, and hence we can go a little bit electronic in terms of surveillance, which maybe on your side may not. But when this came through to me, I was trying to imagine, thinking outside the box. Typical engineers, some solutions work, some don't. I was like, can't we think about that whenever the way the security have color their fuel in their vehicles? I don't know, that's what I was told, so I don't get close to any security fuel. But can't we find means of actually either having some form of a dye, some form of coloring after every certain length of the conductors in particular, which is very hard to actually remove, something like that, so that when you go out to the market,
Yeah.
it is easy to identify that kind of conductor that has been stolen. Just thinking wild. But yeah, it wasn't rampant for us. It has started with the cables. We pray it never gets to the real tower.
Yep,
because it's dangerous.
Thank you very much. And I think why they've not come so much on your side, you give good compensation, unlike some of these other guys. Yours is quite handy, so the compensation is a bit good for those that they committed their land to be used for telecommunication. I'll come back to the transmission side, engineer. You know, technology is advancing. How different can we now, tap into the technological advancement to address some of these vices? You as at the transmission level, you don't suffer the non-technical challenges that Mark faces. So how can we now look at, of course, the technical challenges have been slightly addressed, but the vice of now vandalism have come up. How can we use advancement in technology to address that as well?
Thank you, moderator. First of all, technology alone is not the solution. We have to continuously engage the communities, and we have to find a blend. Communities should be engaged at the lowest level possible, from the local council level, LOC1s, and also we need to engage with our security to improve on the response time. For example, with the police. My colleague from the ministry has mentioned all these interventions, but if we don't have a ready force to counter and stop this theft, then we're not moving far. In terms of technology, of course, there are geographical based systems, GIS systems that we can deploy. We are looking into it. We are also looking at digitizing the cyber security, utilizing our OPGW on our transmission line infrastructure to have real-time monitoring of our infrastructure. So we'll need to involve the local community, the local police, as they mentioned, as well as this local security service providers within a certain footprint where our transmission line traverse. As you note, most of our lines move through very rural areas to get into the power centers. So we can only achieve what we want with technology if we involve the community. We need to employ vigilantes from within the community itself. I think that's the key issue, because they're the ones who will report this kind of vice. And then when we're developing this power transmission projects for our case, we tend now to blend with our partners in the distribution sector so that we can have the first beneficiaries as the project affected persons where these lines of power projects traverse. So that in case there is any vandalism, in case there is any theft, they are the first culprits to have downtimes, and therefore they will feel like this is our project. They will have that sense of ownership of this power infrastructure within that area, and therefore they will enhance its safety as such and curb the vice. The other thing, of course, is to deter this vice through laws. You're very much aware we amended the Electricity Act, where we now have heavy penalties, say 1 billion shillings if you're caught vandalizing infrastructure, power infrastructure projects, or you can go for 10 years in jail or even both. So depending on the severity, and I think this is working quite well. This, of course, together with need to engage also the different manufacturers for this steel and iron ore, so that we have some sort of regulations in place. When you look at, for example, the Ministry of Trade, how can we curb this vice? As is proposed some solution, maybe we can do some color coding as such for these various conductors and cables as such. But yes, the solutions are there in place, but we need to improve on community involvement, have vigilantes within the communities themselves to own these projects, and therefore it will improve. And together with the technology which I mentioned, GIS and the OPGW, the digitization in cybersecurity, and also AI, because the technology of OPGW works in a way that the equipment which is mounted on those towers. For example, in our case, at the terminal end, they are able to detect the intruders, whether sometimes it could be a vehicle passing around creating vibrations, or it could be wind just creating around. So there are systems in place which can assess the level of threat and therefore communicate. And as well, as I mentioned, of course, community policing and so on, we will be able to curb the vice. I thank you. Previously, just to mention, we had tried using cameras and some solar panels as such and batteries installed on our transmission lines. But you know, these are visible. Yeah. Okay? So as they were vandalizing the towers, they also vandalized the cameras as such. So we didn't achieve much. And of course, we captured the act, but the response time, is, again, from the security agencies is another area we need to really pick up and improve on. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Engineer. I'll come to Engineer Mark. On the side of the distribution, you suffer mostly. I don't think your share of vandalism affects you so much. I think your biggest challenge is with actually theft. You say theft, and I'm certain that you are. There are some works to improve the wire, to have the insulated or covered wires, to avoid tapping ons, but also this interference with meters. What are some of the measures? Because police, you know, community policing is one part, but this is where Ugandans are hesitant to report their neighbor that they have been involved in Electricity Theft Act. So how can we really advance on this beyond theft and beyond community policing and digitalization? What do we do? What do we adopt here?
Thank you very much, moderator. It's quite interesting. I want to step back a little bit. Sure. With our discussion and try to paint a good picture of the magnitude of what we are dealing with here. When you're talking about theft, I would want to point at one very famous region, the Elgon region. And I come from there, so I somehow know my village very well. We really had a problem of desire to have connectivity to the grid. And somehow you find a line, a high voltage line going through villages. You would find it could be even 10 villages to go and serve a transformer at the sub-county headquarters. Yeah. So now there is also that issue of the demand, the desire to have connectivity. I talked about earlier of the growth, the current grid growth. So Uganda, if you looked at it geographically, you'd notice that when you look at grid coverage, we're doing well, actually. Yeah. Grid coverage is quite good. But then on electricity access, it's another issue also. So that in itself creates an avenue for theft. Now, if you find the cost of connectivity is high, you'd find people devising all sorts of avenues to link to the grid. Of course, recently we are seeing the use of insulated conductors for the low voltage. That is rolling out a lot. That's being rolled out pretty widely. And that, in a way, is kind of controlled. But I would like to talk about one of the incidents I found from my experience in, I think it was around as I was going along the road. And yes, it was an insulated cable, but then there was a wire, a small black wire running along the pole. Looked like actually an earth. I thought maybe it was an earth wire. But somehow it runs, and then you follow it, and you end up in the person's house. Yeah. So, it's an issue of also demand in itself. And the government has gone ahead to create the connections, to connect the DSTV policy, to allow cheaper connections to houses, to the customers and the rest. In that way, we feel theft would be something that is a second thought. Yeah? The recent one is we are allowing for a kind of loan arrangement where the customer can simply connect and as it consumes, it's hoping to paying back that connection. And I'm sure several of us in this room have benefited from that arrangement. Now, when it comes to vandalism,
Smart 24, driving business.
Is my joy. Ono bulu majiki wange. Ayo. Nalaba kumabala atukuza nonyirira okirako enyange. Taisa bubi fabriki chona chiri chigwa lwa bulu majiki. Bulu majiki is my choice. Ono bulu majiki wange. And the bulu majiki is my choice. Hey, ono bulu majiki wange.
Era tutukanga olw'omuntu nti nigasita ndala mukaaga itaano sita isatu ash onige yes
nga bakubuuza amachanti
nga bamubuuza amachanti code nga tumukuba atamu nsanvu bino olumalirizawo ng'atamu esente dali kuwayo kumbaga ya mwenemu saawa yeneyo nga kyabazinga amwebaza nga tweyongereyo kayi tujja mu kyalo ekindi
ekikoba embaga olunawa luti nga mwira
tulijja kumala kayi tweyongere emyezi mukaaga nga tukasomesa abantu momope
baba embaga ya mwenemu eriyo nga 18 kayi emyezi omukaaga gyoli kwongeramu ojaji
awidine bya momope abantu yembite yona bandeta momo ono bibali kumpaka ne bya momope abidi tyama kupikipiki ojo bisomesa
muleke musoniwe tyamaja
baba tuuka bulungi
simbule embalasi asumuludde
momo nyabo.
Pay or shop with MTN Momo and get cashback every week. It's free of charge. Use the Momo app or dial *165*3#.
Luxury redefined at Seasand Hotel as you indulge in the splendor of elegant living fit for the royalty that you are. Step into comfort, pampering and blissful customer-centric service as you select from our range of comfy, exquisite living quarters furnished to meet with your royal preference. Surrounded by scenic beauty, our tropical setting allows you to escape the glamorous ordeal of city life. Our ambient green gardens will guide you to a place of revitalizing rest. The 3-star restaurant caters to your palate, serving your choice menu ranging from exotic cuisines to local delicacies. Our chefs will serve you full-course meals for a truly out-of-this-world culinary experience. Our fully stocked bar to whet your throat, from renowned global brand whisks, brandies, gins, beers and wines to our locally celebrated beverages, you will not lack for any brewage. It's an all-new experience in the East at Seasun Hotel. So visit today at plot 15 to 19 Spire Road, Ginger, or contact us on +256 751 719 960 and +256 785 354 614 for reservations. Seasun Hotels, luxury redefined.
Farming practices are evolving in incorporating new technologies to address the challenges of agriculture, especially in arid regions like United Arab Emirates, UAE. UAE's commitment to modern farming techniques is essential for ensuring food security and sustainability. The UAE has embraced modern farming practices, which likely includes hydroponics, aeroponics, and other advanced technologies to grow crops efficiently in desert environments. The adaptation of modern farming in desert areas is crucial for countries like UAE, where traditional agriculture may not be feasible due to limited water resources and harsh environmental conditions. Mentioning the world's largest vertical soliless facility in Bostania showcases the innovative approach to agriculture. Vertical farming allows for maximization space and resource efficiency, producing an average of 3,000 leafy greens daily in a significant accomplishment. This efficient production can help meet local demand for fresh produce and reduce the need for imports. Saving 95% less water is a remarkable achievement. In water-scarce regions, conserving water resources is crucial for sustainable farming. The absence of pesticides highlights the commitment to environmentally friendly and sustainable farming practices. The UAE's investment in modern and sustainable agriculture is not only beneficial for the country's food security, but also serves as an example for other regions facing similar challenges. This technology-driven approach to farming can potentially be a solution to global food production issues, especially in areas affected by climate change and water scarcity. Bostanica translates to your garden in Arabic, reflecting the farmer's mission to provide fresh and locally grown produce in the urban setting. Bostanica holds a distinction of being the world's largest vertical farm, covering a vast area of 330,000 square feet. It is a significant investment in modern agriculture. The facility represents a substantial investment of approximately $40 million. This substantial financial commitment highlights the importance of vertical farming in the future of sustainable agriculture.
Bostanica, we are a soilless facility that produces 3,000 kg, 3 tons daily of leafy greens. We are the world's largest vertical farm. Zero herbicides, zero pesticides and all. And we use, again, 95% less than water than traditional agriculture. So whereas in 1 kg of leafy greens in conventional farming, you would use 317 liters of water. At Bostanica, the same 1 kg of leafy greens would be consuming only 15 to 17 liters of water, which is 95% less. And we're proud of this.
Bostanica boasts an impressive annual output of 1 million kilograms, that is 10,000 metric tons of fresh produce per year. On a daily basis, it produces 3 metric tons of produce. This level of the production can help meet the growing demand for locally sourced and sustainable food. The farm employs efficient growing techniques, with a journey from seed to plant-led taking just in 2 weeks. This indicates an advanced technology and precision agriculture methods used in this facility. Bostanica cultivates a wide variety of crops, including beet, parsley, lilac, Moni romani, ruby sky spinach, kale, arugula, microgreens, mixed herbs, and strawberries. This diversity allows for well-rounded selection of fresh produce for consumers. Overall, Bostanica serves as an exemplar of the potential of vertical farming to revolutionize agriculture for producing large quantities of high-quality, locally grown food in urban areas, reducing the environment impacts associated with traditional farming methods, and addressing the growing demand for sustainable and fresh produce.
My name is Asha Naimi. I'm the director of the Solar Innovation Center. The Innovation Center is a clean technology innovation hub that promotes sustainable energy future in Dubai and beyond. And it's located at the heart of Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Solar Park, which is considered among the largest single-site solar park worldwide based on the IPP model. The Innovation Center is focusing on 3 key pillars: innovation, education, and inspiration. The education by empowering youth and building their capabilities in the field of clean and renewable energy. We are hosting professional training, providing workshops and trainings to empower the next generation of innovators in the field of renewable and clean energy. The inspiration by inspiring people and raising their awareness about sustainability and the green initiatives of DIWA. That support Dubai transition toward the clean energy. So it's open to public to come and visit the Innovation Center and see the actual initiatives and the projects in real life. And we are focusing as well on the innovation by showcasing the latest technologies that are being adapted to the project of the solar park and DIWA in general, the renewable and green initiatives of DIWA.
Smart 24, driving business.
The Green Hydrogen Project in the UAE, specifically at the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Solar Park, is the groundbreaking initiative